Chapter 372. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, "Do you believe that it's a coincidence that this person is guarding the door?" Leah shook his head and said, "There are no coincidences in solder." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "So, our every move has long been monitored by someone. That person is just here to make the final confirmation." Leah, should be. Gu Mengmeng jumped down from the bed and walked to Lee's side. She leaned against the table and crossed her arms in front of her chest, asking, "What do you plan to do next? You can't just sit and wait for death, right?" But Leah gave a faint smile and said, "They probably don't have time to care about me now." Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows and said in a slightly tsundere tone, "That's true, the messenger of the beast deity who has been waiting for 1,000 years has descended. Naturally they don't have time to care about you, the exiled Ninth Highness." "Why? Do you want me to use my identity as the messenger of the beast deity to help you vent your anger?" Leah supported his cheek with one hand and looked at Gu Mengmeng from the side. After a long time, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "You are worried about me, right?" Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. She had finally calmed down from the strange atmosphere of being alone with her ex-boyfriend in a room, but Lee's words pulled her back again. Shrugging her shoulders, Gu Mengmeng retreated back to the bed step by step and sat properly. She smiled and said, "Never mind if you don't need it, just treat it as me being nosy. You are so smart, you must have thought of a complete solution and don't need me to worry, right? Ha, ha ha. I really love to worry for no reason." Leah turned around and his gaze was still fixed on Gu Mengmeng. He sighed helplessly and said, "What should I do? I was just worried about you back then, so I followed you here in a moment of impulse. As for countermeasures, I totally didn't think about it. After all, according to my plan, Nina should have been the one to participate in this beauty pageant." Ah. Gu Mengmeng was a little flustered and started to regret asking Leah to execute Nina on a whim. At that time, she felt that she had thought it through thoroughly, but now, she was still not confident. After all, everything was only possible in theory. Damn it, Gu Mengmeng had never put it into practice. But Leah did not give her a chance to think carefully as he walked towards the bed step by step. Gu Mengmeng watched as Leah approached and inched further into the bed, while Leah pressed his hands against the side of the bed before leaning his body forward. Gu Mengmeng moved back a little and Leah moved forward a little. Until Gu Mengmeng had shrunk to the corner of the wall and had no more room to retreat, Leah pressed his hands on both sides of Gu Mengmeng's ears and said innocently, "I am the witch doctor of Saint Nazir and also your beast pet, so, you will protect me, right?" What the hell? Wall slam. Where did he learn that? Gu Mengmeng pushed Lee's shoulders and laughed awkwardly. I definitely have to protect you. But can you not bring up the pet thing again?" Leo lowered his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng's hand that was pushing against his chest. He deliberately used an extremely ambiguous tone and smile and said shyly, "You have touched me and slept with me, everyone in the tribe saw you pouncing on me. Now, it's fine if you don't give me a status, but you won't even let me be a beast pet. Gu Mengmeng, are you really going to abandon me after using me?" Gu Mengmeng instinctively retracted her hand. God have mercy, she was just pushing. Not touching. Chapter 373. Gu Mengmeng did not object. After all, facing a sleeping Leah was much easier than facing a awake Leah. She did not know how long had passed, but she knew that the sun was already setting in the west. The afterglow of the setting sun dyed the outside of the stone room that did not even have a curtain. The glow softened the curves of the stone room, making everything look much gentler. Gu Mengmeng's eyes were already used to night vision, but she still preferred the feeling of being under the sun. Just as she was in a daze, she saw someone walking in. She looked up and indeed met with a pair of blue eyes. "You're back." Gu Mengmeng smiled. Elvis looked at Leah sleeping on Gu Mengmeng's knees and was momentarily stunned. but it disappeared in a flash. He did not say anything and just nodded. Then, he opened the beast-skin bag he was carrying on his back. There were pieces of raw meat that had already been processed inside. The other bag contained some brightly colored and plump fruits. One look and one could tell that they were the juicy, fragrant and tasty type. Gu Mengmeng carefully moved Li's head away and used a pillow to replace her legs. Then, she quietly walked down from the bed and leaned on the table to wipe the sweat off Elvis's forehead. She said, "Did you run back? Your forehead is full of sweat." Elvis smiled as he brought a fruit to Gu Mengmeng's mouth. With an expectant gaze, he gestured for her to taste it. He replied, "I was afraid that you would be anxious from waiting, so I wanted to come back quickly." Gu Mengmeng took a bite. It was indeed as sweet and juicy as expected. She smiled happily and pushed the fruit to Elvis's mouth. She said, "Oh, it's super delicious. You should try it too." Elvis did not bite the fruit. Instead, he turned his face and kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips. His nimble tongue invaded her mouth until all the air in her lungs was sucked dry. Then, he reluctantly let go of her. Then, he smiled and wiped the juice stains off the side of his mouth. He said gently, "Yes, it's very delicious." Gu Mengmeng bashfully punched Elvis's chest. She said coquettishly, "You're so annoying." Elvis used a tree branch to skewer the meat one by one. Then, he placed it at the side. He looked at Leah and said, "I'll go wake Leah up to cook for you. If not, you'll be hungry by the time the meat is done." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "It's rare for him to sleep so peacefully, don't disturb him. You start the fire and I will roast the meat. I haven't cooked for you in a long time. Although my culinary skills are obviously not as good as Li's, just treat it as a change of taste. Eating once in a while, the most important thing is the thought, right?" Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's cheek and said, "The food you make is the most delicious food in this world, nothing else can compare. It's just that I don't want you to work too hard." Gu Mengmeng smiled and pecked Elvis on the lips. "Such a sweet mouth, I'll reward you with 2 more pieces later, all right." Elvis smiled as he carried Gu Mengmeng out of the stone house. Then, he started to light a fire. Gu Mengmeng hummed a tune at the side as she started to rub salt on the meat, brush some honey and sprinkle some chili on it. This was originally a daily scene, but it attracted many onlookers. More and more people came over, but no one dared to step forward to add flowers. Gu Mengmeng raised her head and noticed everyone's strange expression. She smacked her head and said, I forgot that everyone is afraid of fire. It's all right, don't be afraid. This is different from the flame demon. This is domesticated. It's very tame and doesn't bite. Aside from the topic, Gu Mengmeng, it's all right. Our fire is very obedient and doesn't usually bite people. Stop looking, let's go. Passerby *N. Liar, Gu Mengmeng, I told you to stop looking, can't you hear me? Passerby *N. You said it was very tame just now, Gu Mengmeng, what are you looking at? I'll set a fire and bite you if you keep looking. Passerby *N. You said you wouldn't bite people just now. It was indeed all a lie. Chapter 374. The crowd still did not appreciate her kindness and neither did they go near nor leave. They just maintained a distance of about 5 steps to watch. Gu Mengmeng sighed. Forget it, this was not Saint Nazir after all and she could not care so much. With that thought, she no longer cared about how others would look at her. She just placed the roasting meat on the fire and chatted happily with Elvis as though there was no one else around. Everyone started whispering to each other. Gu Mengmeng actually could not hear what they were whispering about, but Elvis could hear it clearly. The smile on Elvis's face gradually faded. He took over the roasting meat from Gu Mengmeng's hands and said, Xiao Meng, let me do it. Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis in shock and asked, "Hubby, did I do something wrong? Why are you doing this to me?" Elvis pursed his lips. He also knew that his cooking skills were really bad. The first time he roasted meat for Gu Meng Meng, she had diarrhea. The second time during winter, she even vomited. "Why don't I wake Leah up? At most, I will keep watch at night and let him sleep again." Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis and then at the crowd. She more or less understood why Elvis was like this. In the past, he had never insisted on such things. Gu Meng Meng would occasionally cook and it was not hard for her. She would usually do it for fun, so Elvis basically did not stop her. Today's cover song must have been because of the crowd. Gu Meng Meng leaned into Elvis's arms and asked with a smile, "What did they say?" Elvis pursed his lips and shook his head without answering. Gu Meng Meng twisted her body in Elvis's arms and said coquettishly, "Good hubby, tell me, what did they say?" Elvis could not resist Gu Meng Meng's coaxing and pestering and could only answer, "They said that you must be too skinny and weak, so males despise you. That's why you only have 2 males protecting you. One of them is sleeping while the other is waiting to eat. They don't cherish you at all. It shows how miserable your life is." Elvis's brows furrowed together. He originally wanted his Xiao Meng to be envied by others, but now, Gu Meng Meng burst out laughing and said, "These words must be said by females, right?" Elvis nodded, not understanding. Gu Meng Meng smiled and said, "It's all right, we don't have to care about these gossips. This is the typical twisted mentality of saying that the grapes are sour because they can't eat it. In my opinion, they are most likely envious that I have such a good husband like you, and that we have such a good relationship. That's why they said such things to deceive themselves and others to find a sense of superiority. As far as I know, females can't do whatever they want, because there are many things that they simply don't know how to do. For example, something as simple as barbecuing meat. During the process of barbecuing, you can communicate with your partner and talk about the interesting things that happen throughout the day. After the meat is cooked, you can even share it. Although this amount is not enough for a male, it is a form of affection." Gu Meng Meng purposely raised her voice so that anyone who was not deaf could hear her. Gu Meng Meng kept the meat on the roasting rack and secretly tore off a piece of roasted meat from the side. She blew on it before passing it to Elvis and said with a smile, "Hubby, ah." Elvis blushed and took over the small piece of meat from her hands. Aside from the topic, author mushroom, Gu Meng Meng, you are attracting hatred. Gu Meng Meng, why? You don't allow people to flaunt their love. Author mushroom, those who flaunt their love will die faster. Gu Meng Meng, this single dog has such a strong sour smell. Author mushroom, flips table. Gu Meng Meng, I will write you to death. Gu Meng Meng flicked her fingers nonchalantly and said, "Do you think Elvis will agree?" Author mushroom, I will write Elvis to death too. Gu Meng Meng smiled sinisterly. The ending of this novel is that the author envies Gu Meng Meng's blissful married life, so she wrote the male and female protagonists to death. Do you think the readers will agree? Author mushroom. Gu Meng Meng, I hate you. Chapter 375. Gu Meng Meng smacked a kiss on Elvis's face and said, "Hubby is so obedient." After she said that, she looked around with a cold smile and said, "If you have the guts, ask your own males if they are envious of my males." After Gu Meng Meng said that, a few females indeed turned around and exchanged a few words with their own males. Then, looking at the atmosphere, they knew the answer. Gu Meng Meng smiled and snuggled back into Elvis's arms. Her hands were still turning the roasted meat rack, but her mouth was not idle. She continued saying loudly, "I only need to do such a simple thing and I can make my partner the object of envy for all males. And I, myself, have this male that everyone else is extremely envious of. Why wouldn't I?" Elvis's heart was filled with sweetness. He knew that Gu Meng Meng basically did not care what others thought of her. But she was willing to say such a long speech to a bunch of strangers because she cared about his feelings. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's hair and said gently, "Xiao Meng, thank you." Gu Mengmeng looked up and kissed Elvis's lips back. She said, "Compared to what you did for me, this is nothing. No matter what others think, see, or say, the person who is going to spend the rest of your life with you is me. So, what I think, what I see and what I say is the most important, isn't it?" "Yes, my queen." Elvis smiled. The females were obviously angry. They turned around and left. Some of the more hot-tempered ones directly ran away in tears. The males naturally followed nervously, and just like that, they all dispersed. Gu Mengmeng and Elvis finally had some peace. They looked at each other for a long time and finally burst out laughing. And on the roof of the stone house, Ian was standing in the shadows. Leah, who was lying on his side on the bed with his eyes wide open, had an indescribable complex look in their eyes. Was it envy? Or was it jealousy? Or both? The next morning, when Gu Mengmeng woke up, Elvis was sitting by the bed with his brows furrowed and looking at the door sternly. Gu Mengmeng followed his gaze but could only see Li's back figure blocking the door tightly. His furry big tail blocked the door so that not even a mosquito could fly in. "What's wrong?" Gu Mengmeng asked softly. Elvis seemed to have just realized that Gu Mengmeng had woken up. He hurriedly hid his dark face and took the beast skin coat from the bedside to help Gu Mengmeng wear it. Then, he said, "Sauter's leader is here, Leah is blocking them outside." "Sauter's leader? What are you here for?" Gu Mengmeng asked as she put on her clothes. "I think it's because of the roast last night," Elvis replied. Gu Mengmeng said, "What?" "Because I made the onlookers cry when I was roasting meat, so they came to find trouble with me. Do I have to go from house to house to apologize? I'm telling you, I'm not going. I didn't ask them to come and watch. They came on their own. If they want to watch, then let them watch. I didn't even confiscate the ticket and just let them watch, but they still think they're blind. I'm already very restrained by not beating them up. There's no way I can apologize. I'm not going." Chapter 376. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis, twitched her lips and slapped her forehead. "I forgot that both of you have amazing hearing, now I am too embarrassed to scold him for eavesdropping on us." Sigh. "Ninth brother, since the little female is awake, can I go in?" That elegant voice sounded again. Leah did not give in at all. He just said coldly, "Leader Cole, please forgive me, my little female is more delicate and has a bad temper. If someone she doesn't want to see enters." Leah stopped halfway through his sentence, while Elvis, who was in the house, suddenly released a large amount of pressure in unison. Gu Mengmeng was still sitting on the bed when she heard the sound of something falling on the ground outside the house. Gu Mengmeng finally understood. Elvis and Leah had developed a tacit understanding over so many years. Other than fighting, picking up girls, managing the tribe, they even had a godly coordination when it came to acting cool. Elvis's pressure did not seem to scare off the person who was called Leader Cole by Leah at the door, only to hear him speaking in a calm tone. "Females are naturally precious, it's normal for them to have a temper. Although I am the leader of Sauter, I have no intention of offending you. Didn't you guard the door for so long just because of the word request to see?" Gu Mengmeng muttered in her heart, "Didn't Leah say that the snow foxes of Sauter were extremely arrogant? Didn't they look down on everyone else other than herself? Why? Did he give in to food after seeing that she knew how to roast meat? Was he the same as Sandy? Anyone who had food was a good person." Elvis whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ear, "I'm afraid they are here for the fire." Gu Mengmeng was stunned, then she realized that the main point was not the roast meat, but the fire used to roast it. It was said that it was the heavy weapon used by the previous messenger of the beast deity to rule the beast world. It was originally guarded by the snow foxes of Sauter for generations, but for some unknown reason, it was extinguished. and then there was no more holy fire. That's right, how could it be so easy to guard a fire? It could be extinguished with just a short nap. Gu Meng Meng nodded, wore her clothes and shot a look at Elvis, telling him not to worry, it would be fine. After all, Gu Meng Meng had wanted to meet the leader of Sauter. From Dumbo to Ali, it was impossible for him to pretend that he was fine, wasn't it? So, Gu Meng Meng cleared her throat and called out to Leah, saying, "Those who visit are guests, it's not good not to meet them. However, this is a place where females live after all, so it's really inconvenient for me to invite you in. Please wait for a moment, I'll come out right away. Everything is for the little female's convenience. As a male, it is an honor for me to wait." Cole's tone was still warm, humble and polite. Although they had not met, Gu Meng Meng had a rather good impression of this Cole. At least he was very gentlemanly and did not make others feel disgusted or guarded against him. Elvis helped Gu Meng Meng wear her boots and then tidied up her clothes. Only then did he feel assured and let her get down from the ground. He followed behind Gu Meng Meng and walked out of the stone house. Chapter 377. The little female in front of him was exactly the same as the messenger of the beast deity he had imagined. No, she was more perfect than he had imagined. Cole was a little agitated. He nodded his head deeply at Gu Meng Meng as a way to return her smile. Then, he took a step back respectfully. "May I know if I have the honor to know the name of this beautiful female?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. In the modern world, this kind of pickup line would be extremely lowly. But here, coupled with Cole's elegant appearance, Gu Meng Meng only felt that he was a gentleman. Gu Meng Meng smiled and nodded. "Leader Cole, how do you do? I am Gu Meng Meng, a female representing Saint Nazir to participate in the beauty pageant." Sorry, Gu Meng Meng was too embarrassed to mention the title of the first beauty of the tribe. Damn, it was too Chinibu, too pretentious, too disgusting, Gu Meng Meng. Cole savored the name. He looked up at Gu Meng Meng's eyes and asked, "Can I call you all Gu?" Gu Meng Meng did not suspect anything. Just as she was about to agree, Elvis and Leah answered in unison. No. Cole seemed very disappointed. But he could not do anything about it. He nodded. "All right, then call me Gu Meng Meng." Gu Meng Meng did not know why these two fellows were so sensitive. But she was not used to a man giving her a nickname on their first meeting. So, she did not probe further. She just flipped the page and went straight to the main topic. "Leader Cole, you came to find me early in the morning just to ask me if I roasted meat here last night." Gu Meng Meng glanced sideways at the pile of ashes in the corner. "Isn't the answer obvious? You have been here for the whole morning. Don't tell me you didn't see it." "No, I actually came because of another question," Cole said seriously. "I heard the female accompanying you call you the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Meng Meng smiled. Did Cole really have nothing to do with Ellie so he did not know? Or was he in cahoots with Ellie to trick her? Unable to see through this mail, Gu Meng Meng did not hide anything. "If I am the messenger of the beast deity because I can light a fire, then I should be." This answer made Cole's blood boil. He clenched his fists in agitation. After taking 2 deep breaths, he said, "We need to carry out a ceremony to confirm your identity. If you are really the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Meng Meng did not say anything. She just lifted her chin and looked at Cole, as if waiting for him to continue. But Cole did not say anything. She just smiled and said, I. Gu Meng Meng did not say anything. With that, Cole placed his right hand on his left chest and bowed to Gu Meng Meng before turning to leave. But before he could take 2 steps, he suddenly stopped and looked at Leah. "Ninth brother, you haven't returned for so many years, you must miss Sauter very much, right?" Gu, Cole of the brother of you to Mo. Shao of I, Mo, He shall of me. Master. Gu of too, my Xiao Meng dotes on me very much. She can't not see me for even a moment. Cole frowned and started sizing up Gu Meng Meng. He asked in confusion, you have already made it. Gu Mingming's expression changed. Leah shook his head. He smiled brightly and innocently like a child. I didn't mate. I am Xiao Meng's beast pet. Aside from the topic, high energy warning ahead. Chapter 378. Gu Mengmeng jumped up and hooked her arms around Li's neck. She covered his mouth and laughed awkwardly. Leader Cole, since you still have things to do, we shall not waste your time. Please go ahead, please go ahead. With that, without waiting for Cole's reply, she carried Li's head back to the stone house. After sneaking a few glances to make sure that Cole had left, Gu Mengmeng then released Li's neck and glared angrily. Are you done? Must you announce to the world that you are my beast pet so that no female would want you in the future? Are you happy? Let me tell you, if you want to use this method to make me feel guilty, then let me tell you, you are thinking too much. It is your choice to not take your own life seriously. I will not be responsible for your choice, do you hear me? Leo was as obedient as a primary school student. He stared at the angry Gu Mengmeng with deep affection and smiled blissfully. Hey! I am talking to you, why are you smiling? Gu Mengmeng looked at Li's joyful look and was even more furious. Leo looked at Elvis and asked, so this is how it feels to be reprimanded by Gu Mengmeng, no wonder you always make mistakes in front of her and make her shout. The veins on Gu Mengmeng's forehead instantly bulged and she placed her hands on her waist. Am I praising you? Leah took a step forward and bent down slightly, sending his ear to Gu Mengmeng. His eyes curved into a bridge and he said in an expectant tone, do you want to pinch my ear? It looks quite painful, but I still want to experience it. Gu Mengmeng was so angry that she did not know how to get angry. She blinked her eyes at Leah and asked, are you a damn masochist? Do you have masochistic tendencies? Leah thought about it seriously, then nodded his head and said, only towards you. I like it when you are angry at me. Because when you are angry, that pair of beautiful eyes will focus on me. Although it is a little scary when you look like you can shoot fire from your eyes, but the danger is very beautiful and makes one addicted. As Leah said that, he gently caressed Gu Mengmeng's cheeks. That pair of narrow and affectionate eyes clearly reflected Gu Mengmeng's slightly sympathetic expression as if she was looking at an idiot. However, Li's lips curved upwards and he took a deep breath, enjoying the fragrance that permeated the air that belonged to her. After reminiscing for a while, he then continued, if you will also pull my ears and scold me, if you will also throw potatoes, sweet potatoes, and salted fish at me, if you will also set 3 rules with me, ordering me not to use you as a bet, not to say that it doesn't matter whether you like me or not to abandon you, that will be even more blissful. Leo leaned closer to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng could even clearly feel the temperature of Li's breath and his unique scent. Li's gaze was filled with pleading, with a tinge of resentment and anticipation. He asked softly, hey, satisfy me too, alright. Satisfy what? Gu Mengmeng took a step back and lost her balance, almost falling. Leah quickly grabbed onto Gu Mengmeng's waist and pulled her inwards. Gu Mengmeng's abdomen was pressed tightly against Li's abdomen. This position caused Gu Mengmeng's feet to be unable to land on the ground. After kicking twice, it made her look even more comical. Gu Mengmeng pouted and shouted at Elvis, hubby, he is already teasing me like this, aren't you going to have any reaction at all? Aside from the topic, today's 9 chapters are over babies, continue tomorrow. Yeah, I know, it's not satisfying enough. I will try to save more manuscripts and wait for the editor to inform me when I want to add more chapters, alright? Be obedient and hand over all your tickets. It was said that only works with good rankings would have the right to be recommended. With recommendations, there would be more chapters. So, do you guys understand now? Ha! Where are the tickets? Chapter 379. Elvis thought about it and walked forward. He hugged Gu Meng Meng into his arms with one hand and twisted Li's ear with the other. Then, he said expressionlessly, "Since Xiao Meng isn't willing, then I'll satisfy you. It's about this strength. Are you happy now?" Leah slapped Elvis's hand away and turned around, saying, "You can't make me feel happy and satisfied, I'm not interested in males." Pfft. Ha 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 ha. Gu Meng Meng laughed like an idiot and trembled in Elvis's arms. When she finally stopped laughing, Leia came in with breakfast for her. Ian caught some fish at the river before the sky brightened. Leah removed the fish bones and boiled it with sweet potatoes to make a porridge-like paste. He mixed some honey into it before bringing it to Gu Meng Meng. He scooped a little with a small spoon and blew on it to warm it. Then, he brought it to Gu Meng Meng's mouth, saying, "Aw." Gu Meng Meng reached out to take the bowl and said, no need, I can do it myself. I'm in good shape, I'm not a vegetable." But Leah dodged and looked at Gu Meng Meng sadly, saying, "You promised me in the past to treat yourself as a severely handicapped person who can't take care of himself and let me take care of you in everything." Gu Meng Meng clicked her tongue and said, "Let's not talk about the past, we can still be friends." Leah swayed his tail happily and said, "This is what you said, let's not talk about the past, we can all start afresh." Gu Meng Meng said, "Hey, don't change my original words. I said, we can still be friends, who said anything about starting afresh?" Leah said, "Didn't we start as friends in the past? If we can still be friends, doesn't that mean we can start afresh?" Gu Meng Meng said, "Everything that happened before this year's spring is called the past, just let it go with the wind and neither of us will mention it again, okay?" Leah mumbled something but Gu Meng Meng did not hear it clearly. It was just some grumbling and Gu Meng Meng did not pursue it further. She just asked in an emphatic tone, "Okay?" Leah nodded and said with some grievance, "If we don't mention the past, can we talk about the new things?" Gu Meng Meng nodded and made a "please" gesture. Leah pointed at Elvis and said, "Elvis humiliated me just now, he touched my ears. If this gets out, I won't be able to be a fox anymore. Sob sob sob, as the head of the family, shouldn't you comfort my wounded heart?" Gu Meng Meng really wanted to maintain a stern image, but she could not hold it in. She doubled over in laughter on the bed, slapping her thighs while saying, "I knew there was something going on between you two, ha ha ha." Elvis's face darkened as he carried Gu Meng Meng, who was crying from laughing so hard. He tilted her little chin and forced her to look at him. He clenched his teeth and said, "Other than you, I have never slept with anyone else." Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis's darkened face and tried to hold back her laughter. But the more she tried, the more she wanted to laugh. In the end, she could only tremble until it was vibrating. Elvis sighed. He could not do anything to Gu Meng Meng and could only turn to look at Leah. "Can you stop saying things that will cause Xiao Meng to misunderstand? It was not easy for me to prove that we are innocent, but if you say the same thing, she will." Leah did not buy it. He placed the cold porridge and the spoon into his mouth and tasted it. The taste was not bad, it should be the type that Gu Meng Meng liked. Then, he scooped another spoonful of porridge and blew on it before answering Elvis, "Are we innocent? Aside from the topic." Chapter 380. Gu Meng Meng instantly stopped smiling. Like a frightened rabbit, she straightened her back and looked back and forth between Elvis and Leah with her big round eyes. After a while, she pointed at Elvis and roared, "If you don't give me a clear explanation today, I won't let you off." Elvis was stunned. Elvis opened his arms and caught Gu Meng Meng, who was pouncing towards him, steadily. He let her mess around in his arms and smiled dotingly. Occasionally, he would look up at Leah, who was jealous that day. Only when Gu Meng Meng was tired of messing around did he stroke her hair and said, "When Leah and I founded Saint Nazir, our territories were all snatched from other tribes. There were fair duels and there were times when we used underhanded methods. So, we really can't be considered innocent. But it is definitely not what you think." Elvis supported Gu Mingming's little butt with one hand and lifted her chin with the other. With a slight sense of punishment, he kissed Gu Mingming's delicate lips and only released her when her face turned red. He said, "This is the last time I am going to explain this. If you dare to let your imagination run wild in the future, I will punish you by making you unable to get off the bed for 3 days. You will have to personally experience who I am having an affair with." Sob, 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 her partner's husbandly powers suddenly exploded. Just thinking about it made her a little excited. Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis's neck timidly and replied coquettishly, Yeah, hubby, I won't think anymore. My hubby is so handsome, he's practically a walking hormone. How can he be gay? Straighter than steel bars." Elvis also did not know what she was talking about, but seeing her obedient and adorable look, he enjoyed it. So he sighed and put her on the bed without his black face. He took the porridge bowl from Lee's hands and said, "The temperature of the porridge is just right. I will feed you." No need. How can I let hubby handle such a small matter? I can do it myself. Gu Meng Meng reached out to take the porridge bowl. But Elvis sent a spoonful of porridge directly into his mouth and then passed it into Gu Ming Ming's mouth with his lips. "I've said it before, I already have the qualifications to take care of you. You can't refuse me." Elvis's eyelids drooped slightly, hiding most of the blue glow in his eyes, but turning his tenderness into water, flowing into Gu Mingming's ears. "If you're not used to me feeding you with a spoon, then, let's change to another method that I prefer. How about that?" Blushing, Gu Meng Meng leaned into Elvis's arms obediently and said, "Let's just use a spoon, it's better, it's more efficient." Elvis patted Gu Mingming's little head and kissed her hair. Then, he started to feed spoonfuls of fish and sweet potato porridge into Gu Mingming's mouth. Gu Meng Meng was eating and did not have the time to speak, so Elvis spoke on her behalf. "Leah, what is the ritual that Cole mentioned just now? You specifically stayed behind to tell Xiao Meng about this, right?" Leah nodded. He really wanted to use proper business to distract himself, but he could not hide the envy in his eyes. Chapter 381. Why? Gu Meng Meng swallowed a mouthful of porridge and asked. "Leah, because the previous messenger of the beast deity said that the real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoterica." With that, Leah looked at Gu Meng Meng attentively, as if waiting for her to say what was written in the esoterica. Gu Meng Meng was dumbfounded, she really did not know what the esoterica was. Nine Manual, or Buddha's Palm. Damn, she was not mentally prepared at all when she transmigrated. She swam here and did not meet the legendary almighty beast deity at all. No one had ever told her that there was such a thing as an esoterica. Gu Meng Meng complimented him and asked, "If I can't answer, will I be treated as a witch and burned to death?" Leah and Elvis looked at each other and smiled. Females who can't answer will be treated as looking down on the beast deity and will be punished. "But Elvis and I will protect you, no one can hurt you." Gu Meng Meng held her forehead with one hand and said helplessly, "Say, if we decide to escape now, isn't it too late?" As they were talking, Cole's voice sounded from the door again. "Don't worry, just because you can summon the flame demon, solder will not make things difficult for you." Gu Meng Meng was stunned and glared at Elvis and Leah. What was wrong with these two? Why didn't they remind her that someone was eavesdropping? Clearing her throat awkwardly, Gu Meng Meng said, "No. I'm not worried." Cole seemed to chuckle and said, "The ceremony is ready, can we go over now?" Gu Mengmeng grabbed onto Elvis's hand nervously. Elvis held onto her little hand and pulled her into his arms, hugging her firmly. Leah, on the other hand, followed behind Elvis and walked out of the stone house. Cole gave a simple bow to Gu Mengmeng. It was not much respect, but just basic courtesy. This made Gu Mengmeng feel very comfortable. If it was too grand, she would feel awkward. Under Cole's lead, the group arrived at a place similar to the platform of the deity's punishment in Saint Nazaire. The surroundings were completely surrounded and there was only a path wide enough for one person to pass through. Cole was the first to step onto the platform. He then gestured for Gu Mengmeng to come up. Just as Elvis was about to carry Gu Mengmeng up, Leah pulled him back. Only the tribe leader and the messenger of the beast deity can enter this place. If anyone else steps in, they will be treated as disrespecting the beast deity. Elvis raised his eyebrows, as if he didn't care. Leah said, "You will only make things difficult for Mengmeng if you insist on going up. Trust her. She'll be fine. If there really is something, you and I are right here, it's just a step away." Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng again and she gave him a "it's all right" smile before jumping down from Elvis's arms and walking towards the platform of the deity's punishment. There was a book enshrined on the platform of the deity's punishment. Due to the passage of time, it was severely damaged. The paper was yellowish and brittle, as if it could not even withstand a gust of wind. However, why does the cover of that book look so familiar? Where have I seen it before, peasant? Cole opened his mouth. His voice was sonorous and forceful, as though he was reciting some sacrificial rites. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She looked at Cole, not understanding why he was suddenly spouting nonsense. Peasant. Cole repeated again, before staring at Gu Mengmeng fixedly. Chapter 382. Cole was shocked at first, then he could not control the expression on his face. He took a big step forward towards Gu Mengmeng and said, "Geese geese geese." Gu Mengmeng smiled stiffly and thought to herself, "Brother, can you restrain the smile on your face? Why does reciting a poem from the Tang dynasty seem to have hit your high spot? What are you so excited about?" Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not reply, Cole got a little anxious and took another step forward, repeating, "Geese geese geese. Singing to the sky with my crooked neck, white hair floating on the green water, red palms stirring the clear waves." Gu Mengmeng simply memorized the entire poem. Seeing that Cole was about to speak again, Gu Mengmeng gestured for him to stop and said, "Don't ask anymore. I learned how to read at 3, learned how to write at 5, familiarized myself with 300 poems from the Tang dynasty at 7, and could recite a chapter from my mouth at 9. If you don't believe me, I will compose a poem for you." Gu Mengmeng placed her hands behind her back and shook her head, saying, "I will remove the general's battle robe, and the hibiscus warms the spring night in the tent. The 6 palaces are colorless, and from then on, the king does not attend morning court." With that, Gu Mengmeng turned around and looked at Cole with a sneaky smile, saying, "Leader Cole, what do you think of my poem?" With a plop, Cole knelt down on both his knees and got into a position of worship, shouting loudly, "Leader Cole of the messenger's tribe, welcome back the messenger of the beast deity." Once Cole knelt down, no one else dared to stand. The entire scene was rather spectacular. Even Leah and Elvis followed the crowd and knelt down at Gu Mengmeng's feet, groveling in submission. The corners of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched and she smiled awkwardly. She took 2 steps forward and picked up the esoteric book that only the tribe leader could read. Damn, it was indeed 300 poems from the Tang dynasty. Gu Mengmeng felt as though 10,000 divine beasts were galloping across her heart. Was the previous messenger of the beast deity a joker? Using this 300 poems from the Tang dynasty to fool the Sauter tribe for 1,000 years, a book that cost $9 and was worshipped for 1,000 years, and only the tribe leader could pass it down from father to son, then from son to grandson. Gu Mengmeng really started to suspect if Leah was being serious when he said that the Snow Fox tribesmen were extremely intelligent and scheming. Turning back to look at Leah and Elvis, Gu Mengmeng realized that everyone was still kneeling, so she hurriedly waved her hands and said, "Get up, everyone." Yes. Cole supported himself with one hand on the ground and slowly stood up. He moved closer to Gu Mengmeng and said respectfully, "I came late to welcome you and caused the great messenger to be stranded outside. Please punish me." Gu Mengmeng's eyes drifted towards Leah, thinking to herself, they were indeed from the same factory, they all had masochistic tendencies, asking her to punish them the moment they met. Should he wave a leather whip or drip wax? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Subordinate. Leader Cole must be joking, I'm just a little female in Saint Nazaire, how would I dare to order you to be my subordinate? Cole wanted to say more, but Gu Mengmeng interrupted him and continued, Is the ceremony over? You don't have to burn me, do you? Can I go now? My mate is still waiting for me there. Great messenger. Cole took a step forward and stood in front of Gu Mengmeng. He lowered his head respectfully and said, Since the great messenger has returned, you should naturally stay in Sauder. This is your tribe. As for your partner, he can stay with you. Gu Mengmeng raised her brow. What if I don't agree? Are you going to force me to stay? Cole lowered his head and said, I don't dare to. But even though he said that, his body was like a towering ancient tree, not moving an inch. Aside from the topic, about this esoteric book. Chapter 383. Gu Mengmeng smiled and patted Cole's shoulder lightly. It's best if you don't dare to. After all, if you anger me, it won't do you any good. With that, she walked past Cole and walked down the platform. Elvis caught Gu Mengmeng steadily and carried her in his arms. He turned around and left, not caring about what was happening behind him. Leah did not say anything and just followed behind Gu Mengmeng quietly. The group returned to the small stone house that Gu Mengmeng stayed in previously. After entering the house, Leah asked, That esoteric manual, you don't want it? Gu Mengmeng smiled. Are you interested in that esoteric manual? Leah nodded his head honestly and Gu Mengmeng replied with an understood expression. Then, she said, I'm lying when I said that I can recite all 300 Tang poems, but it's a given that I can recite the more familiar ones. Coincidentally, I know both poems that Leader Cole tested me on today. I stopped him from asking because I was afraid that he would ask something unpopular and I would not be able to memorize it, but if you are interested, I can teach you when I teach Hede and his brothers. Gu Mengmeng sat on the bed. The more she thought about it, the funnier she felt. She waved at Elvis and Leah. I finally know why the previous messenger of the beast deity said the real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoteric manual. Damn it, at my place, all the children who graduated from kindergarten can memorize these Tang poems. No matter how bad their studies are, they would definitely be able to memorize these few poems. So, I now believe that you guys said that I am the messenger of the beast deity. Leah and Elvis looked at each other and exchanged glances. Leah asked, Then what do you plan to do next? Gu Mengmeng shrugged. I'll first participate in the beauty pageant and bring the person I like back to Saint Nazaire. Leah frowned. You directly said that you don't want to stay in Sauder today. I'm afraid that Cole will not let you off so easily. Gu Mengmeng thought about it and replied, I think he is quite a gentleman. He doesn't look like he would do anything scary. But Leah gave a bitter smile. Have you forgotten? The Snow Fox tribe is the best at reading people's minds. This level of disguise is nothing to him. Gu Mengmeng thought about it again. He would dedicate a book of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Gu Mengmeng smiled and patted Li's shoulder. Don't worry too much. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. My identity was announced in public today and the whole world's eyes are probably on Sauter now. If I were to make any mistake in Sauter, his life would be worse than anyone else's. Therefore, he probably wouldn't dare to use force. Even if we take 10,000 steps back and say that he really has evil intentions and wants to play dirty with us, what if I am in a bad mood and accidentally burn down his Sauter? What should I do then? Seeing Gu Mingming's cheerful look, Leah did not say anything else. Some things should be shouldered by males. It would be best for her to be happy and carefree like this forever. The date of the beauty pageant was 3 days after Gu Mingming's identity was exposed. In these 3 days, the 3-word Saint Nazir became the hottest topic on the streets. Actually, there was not much meaning in this competition anymore because not only the males, even the females who came to participate in the competition expressed their intention to join them. In other words, as long as Gu Mengmeng nodded, everyone in Sauter could be brought back to Saint Nazir in one fell swoop. Beauty pageant, was there still a need to choose? Aside from the topic, Gu Mengmeng, hoeing the fields at noon. Steamed bun *4, ow 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 Leah, I want to be the peasant, you be the noon. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes at Leah and changed to another Tang Dynasty poem. The sun shines on the mountain in the daytime, the yellow river flows into the sea. Steamed bun *4, ow 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 Leah, I want to be the yellow river, you be the sea. Gu Mengmeng slammed the table and changed to another one. 2 orioles chirping in the green willow, a row of egrets soaring into the blue sky. Steamed bun did not say anything and just turned to look at Leah. Leah smiled and said, change it, a white fox soaring into the blue sky, how about that? You be the blue sky. Gu Mingming's face darkened and she changed to another one. The winding path leads to a secluded place, the meditation room is full of flowers and trees. Leah simply stood up and hugged Gu Mingming's waist, saying, I am the winding path, through. Ha! How about that? Gu Mengmeng flipped the table and said angrily, can you still learn Tang Dynasty poems happily? You have worshipped the esoterica for thousands of years, where is your piety? Where is the respect you promised? Chapter 384. A beauty pageant had successfully turned into a recruitment fair for Saint Nazir because of Gu Mingming's exposure. The first news was personally announced by Gu Mengmeng. This time, she was only releasing 50 slots. That meant that everyone who wanted to join Saint Nazir had to fight for the slot. Only those who successfully obtained the slot would have the right to join Saint Nazir. This was different from the past when the strongest chose the tribe. The primary and secondary relationship had been reversed and the tribe chose the strongest. Elvis and Leah did not quite understand Gu Mingming's decision. Wasn't it better to have more strong males? Why did she only accept 50? However, Gu Mengmeng smiled. Quality, quality. Quality comes before quantity. Only when there is a qualitative change can there be a qualitative change. If you are not good at it, what's the use of having more? Elvis completely could not understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative changes. He could only nod. Whatever you say. I'll listen to you. The tribe leader and first partner did not have any objections. Leah, the witch doctor and beast pet that could not be recognized, naturally did not have any room to raise any objections. Hence, the matter of the slots was decided. The first question that Gu Mengmeng gave was a day's hunt starting from sunrise and ending at sunset. The top 10 with the most prey would obtain the slots to join. Hence, on the first day, almost all the males in the city came out of their nests. Even the males who originally accompanied the females to participate in the beauty pageant had actively participated in it. In the past, only the beautiful females would join a tribe and the males would follow. This was the first time a female wanted to join a tribe. Her own males had to have the ability to obtain a slot before she could join as a family member. Joining the messenger's tribe meant that they would be able to live a better life. Females naturally encouraged males to fight for it. especially when they heard that only the top 10 could obtain a slot. Hence, they were even more determined. Competition was a woman's nature. Be it in the present or ancient times, ordinary people or orcs, it was the same. Hence, the males risked their lives to hunt for prey outside while the females dressed themselves up beautifully. If there was no partner in the top 10, then they would just choose one on the spot. They were all the first beauties of their respective tribes. They had blind confidence in this aspect and believed that as long as they beckoned, no males would reject them. Compared to those who stretched their necks to wait for the results, the atmosphere at Gu Mingming's side was much stranger. That. Leader Cole, is it really okay for you to do this? Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole, who had moved a small table and placed it outside her stone house. He then sat cross-legged in the corner of the wall, holding a yellowed 300 poems of the Tang dynasty, and looked up at Gu Mengmeng. She was really speechless. What happened to the promised high-end, elegant, black-bellied, tsundere, and profound? Could it be that the Snow Fox family's greatest weapon of destruction was this look of innocence in the eyes of an abandoned pet dog? If Lady Emissary doesn't want to stay, I don't dare to force you. However, as Lady Emissary's follower, no matter where Lady Emissary goes, I will follow. Cole nodded his head seriously and handed over the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty with both hands. This is the esoterica left behind by the previous great messenger. He had instructed us to let the new great messenger take a look. Chapter 385. Cole insisted. He raised his hands above his head and said, "Please take a look." Gu Mengmeng did not know what to do with Cole and could only accept the esoterica. "All right, I will accept the book. Can you go back now?" Cole shook his head and said, "I want to stay and serve the great messenger." Gu Mingming's face was really stiff. She thought to herself, if you want to serve me, then so be it. Can you not look at me with that ambiguous and wronged expression? You make it sound like I did something to you. Gu Mengmeng sighed and turned to enter the house. She pounced into Elvis's arms and said, "Hubby, there's an idiot at the door." Elvis was also helpless as he said, "I've beaten him up so many times that his leg was crippled by me. He actually came back with 3 legs. After all, he's Sauter's leader and we're in his territory. It wouldn't be good if we really killed him." Gu Mengmeng sighed. "That's right," Leah said, "show me your ability to ignore me. Just ignore him and that will do." Gu Mengmeng glared at Leah and said, "Is your family heirloom about acting cute and pitiful? You did the same thing last time." The smile on Lee's face froze for a moment. He turned around and said coldly, "He is not my family." With that, Leah walked out of the stone house and dragged Cole, who was sitting at the door, away. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and looked up at Elvis, asking, "Hubby, did I say something wrong?" Elvis stroked Gu Mingming's little head and said, "It's all right, Leah won't blame you." Sob sob sob, I really said the wrong thing. Elvis felt helpless. Many a time, he was really envious of Lee's ability to make Gu Mengmeng happy. He always knew what he said at the right time to have the right effect. As for himself, he could never learn it. Feeling bored, she flipped open the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. To be honest, if this book was stored in the modern era, it would probably be stored in a vacuum in a museum. But the content was really a Tang dynasty poem, the kind that could be found on Amazon's special series of 9.90 renminbi. It was the first time in Gu Mingming's life that she was looking at Tangshi so cautiously. But as she watched, Gu Mengmeng discovered something different. She seemed to understand why the previous messenger of the beast deity wanted Sauter's people to pass this book to the new messenger of the beast deity. There were words on the book, which looked like the marks of a ballpoint pen. Gu Mengmeng sighed silently in her heart. Why did other people bring at least 300 poems of the Tang dynasty and a ballpoint pen when they transmigrated, while she only brought a bikini, Too much time had passed and many of the words could not be read clearly. In addition, the book was damaged and the message left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity could not be read completely. Gu Meng Meng could only piece together a few pieces of information. The previous messenger of the beast deity was an honorary consultant of the Book of Changes Association. This kind of person had been seen many times on television. To put it bluntly, he was just a charlatan who spent money to buy a title that sounded rather intimidating and then told people's fortunes. No wonder he insisted on calling fire the flame devil. He's a person who relies on superstition for a living. Gu Meng Meng muttered softly. Elvis also took a glance at the book. He could not see anything. The entire page was filled with scribbles. Gu Meng Meng wanted to read more of the content carefully, but it was very difficult to piece together other useful information. The word that appeared the most was dream. Aside from the topic, the author's imagination was opened. It had nothing to do with the plot. My babies just have to watch and be happy. 1,000 years later, the next messenger of the beast deity entered the beast world and came to Saint Nazir to investigate the secret of the previous legendary Gu Meng Meng. He obtained a magical artifact that Saint Nazir worshipped for 1,000 years, a set of 36D bikini. Chapter 386. Gu Meng Meng was a little confused. Dream? What does that mean? That everything she was experiencing right now was a dream? Wake up and find that it was all fake. Gu Meng Meng hesitated for a moment before looking up at Elvis. Then, she stretched out her evil little hand and pinched Elvis's ear hard. Elvis gasped in pain but did not dare to resist. He could only look at Gu Meng Meng innocently and said without hesitation, "Xiao Meng, I was wrong." Gu Meng Meng let go and smiled awkwardly. It was a conditioned reflex for her to admit her mistake after twisting his ear. Rubbing Elvis's ears, she said, "Yeah, it's not your fault this time. I just wanted to try. Do you feel pain?" Elvis thought about it seriously and shook his head. "Actually, it's not very painful." Gu Meng Meng thought, if it was not very painful, could it be that she was really in a dream? After hesitating for a moment, Gu Meng Meng pinched her thigh harshly. Motherf asterisk cur. Gu Meng Meng was in so much pain that her tears fell instantly. Looking at the purple beads on her thighs, Gu Meng Meng really wanted to curse the ancestors of the previous messenger of the beast deity. "Lil Miss doesn't believe you." Gu Meng Meng rubbed her thighs while scolding with tears in her eyes. "So damn wicked, it hurts so much." Elvis sighed and slapped away her hands that were rubbing his thighs. Then, he used his warm palms to rub the bruise on her thighs. He rubbed it rhythmically with moderate strength and said, "You pinched yourself like this the first time I saw you, and you did it again today. Do you have to pinch your thighs repeatedly?" Gu Meng Meng tilted her head. Could she pretend to be a retard? She had already forgotten that he had pinched her a long time ago. Why did Elvis remember it so clearly? "That. I actually just want to make sure that everything that I'm experiencing right now is not a dream. People say that it doesn't hurt when you're dreaming. If it hurts, does that mean I'm not dreaming?" Elvis turned his head and asked seriously. Gu Meng Meng nodded in reply. Elvis thought for a moment, then placed her on the bed and started to remove his beast skin dress. "Hey! What are you doing? It's broad daylight, isn't it inappropriate? This scene is too erotic. Hey, don't take it off, don't take it off. The door isn't closed." Gu Meng Meng stopped Elvis incoherently. Elvis held on to his half-removed beast skin dress and looked at Gu Meng Meng with a serious face. There are many ways to feel pain. Compared to pinching your own thighs, I think another method is better. Don't worry, I'll try my best to make you sure you're not dreaming. Gu Meng Meng was already drenched in cold sweat. "Brother, please don't try too hard." Gu Meng Meng didn't was. Thinking of this, Gu Meng Meng felt even more like an idiot. On the night of mating, she had almost died from the pain, and now she was suspecting that everything was just a dream. Gu Meng Meng maintained her stiff smile and helped Elvis wear the beast skin dress properly. Then, she nodded her head and said, "There's no need to verify it anymore. I already deeply understand that this is not a dream." Elvis scooped Gu Meng Meng into his arms after helping him put on the beast skin dress. He hugged her tightly and whispered into her ear, "Promise me, if all this is just a dream to you, then, please kill me before you decide to wake up. Don't leave me alone to face a world without you. To me, it's a nightmare that I'll never recover from." Aside, Elvis thought, "Xiao Meng, I think you might really be dreaming. It's better for us to verify it." Gu Meng Meng was so terrified that she stepped back. "Hubby, don't be like this, really. I'm sure I'm not dreaming." Elvis pounced forward, "But I'm not sure." 10,086 words of detailed description were omitted here. Chapter 387. Silly Girl. Gu Meng Meng smiled and hugged Elvis back. She patted his back lightly and said, "A world without you is just a barren land. If it's a dream, it must be a good dream that I exchanged my entire life's luck for. This is a once-in-a-lifetime luxury. If I'm really about to wake up, you must hug me tightly and make me stay. If you really can't do it, just knock me out. After all, I won't be so lucky to meet you like this again." The atmosphere was just right. She should have expressed something further. Anyway, she was not done wearing the beast skin dress, right? But, great messenger. Cole stood at the door with a snow-white fox in his hands. Gu Meng Meng instinctively pushed Elvis away, but he hugged her even tighter, not letting her escape from his arms at all. "You're the one who said it, to hug you tightly." Gu Meng Meng smiled. Gu Meng Meng cleared her throat and said, "You are taking my words out of context. What I'm saying is, if I'm about to wake up, you have to hug me tightly." Elvis shrugged and said, "As long as you are not in my arms, I will treat it as if you are about to wake up." Gu Meng Meng's heart was beating wildly. Even though they were an old married couple and had 4 children, Gu Meng Meng's resistance and immunity towards Elvis, who was saying such sweet nothings in a serious manner, was decreasing day by day. She punched his chest and said, "Someone is watching, it's not good." Elvis raised his brows and glanced at Cole. "You like him?" Gu Meng Meng was stunned for a moment before shaking her head violently. "What are you saying? One Leah is enough to give me a headache, why would I go and provoke others?" Elvis nodded with a cold expression. "One fox is enough for our family." Gu Meng Meng was speechless. That was not what she meant, all right. Leah was also not her family's fox, all right. But what could she do if she could not refute him? Clenching her teeth, Gu Meng Meng sighed in resignation and was about to ask Cole what was the matter. But Elvis spoke first. "Xiao Meng doesn't like you, so it's useless even if you win against Leah. Our family's rule is that only challenges with Xiao Meng's approval count. Besides..." Elvis pointed at the fox in Cole's hand and said, "He is just a beast pet, not Xiao Meng's partner. If you want to challenge me, you have to find me." The word awkward was clearly written all over Gu Meng Meng's face. Cole had only treated her as a follower of the messenger of the beast deity and had never once said that he liked her. This kind of behavior of randomly pulling a stranger on the street and then scowling at him to stop coveting his wife, was he a Chinibu or a lunatic? Gu Meng Meng tugged at Elvis's arm and said, "Cole doesn't like me at all, it's very awkward for you to say that." When Elvis's gaze met Gu Meng Meng's, it became extremely gentle. His brows slightly touched and his blue eyes were filled with deep affection like the vast sea of stars. "In this world, there's no one who doesn't like you. Every male is a rival in love. We need to be careful." Puff, what a Chinibu theory, but my heart is beating really fast. What should I do? Was this the so-called beauty in the eye of the beholder? Oh my, she was already the world's most beautiful woman in Elvis's eyes. Her heart was blooming with joy and the corners of her lips curled up unknowingly. Gu Mengmeng tried not to look too pleased with herself. She waved her hands and said, "I'm not money, how can everyone like me?" Don't spout nonsense, Cole didn't mean it that way. Aside from the topic, alright, babies. Today's update has ended. Chapter 388. Cole did not say a word, but his eyes were filled with confusion and some unexplainable things. "Great Messenger, can I come in?" Cole asked. "No." Elvis replied firmly without hesitation. Cole did not insist and just nodded his head. Then, he placed the fox at the door and stroked his head as if he was stroking a pet dog. He instructed, "Since you have already become the Great Messenger's beast pet, you must serve the Great Messenger well and make her happy. This way, you, as the Ninth Highness, can be considered to have contributed to the Snow Fox clan. Don't throw a tantrum in the future, understand? This will put the Great Messenger in a difficult position." Leah kept his mouth shut and did not say a word. He just turned his head and ran into the house, pouncing to Gu Mingming's side and circling her with his body. Then, he rested his head on Gu Mingming's thigh and whimpered, as if he was acting coquettishly. Gu Mengmeng did not understand beast language and could only smile awkwardly. Cole stood at the door and bowed to Gu Mengmeng, then said, "Then, Cole shall not disturb the Great Messenger's rest. I will guard the door and you can instruct me if you need anything." Gu Mengmeng, huh? Didn't you already give me your book? Why are you still squatting at my door? Aren't you the leader? Don't you need to settle the tribe's matters? Cole stood at his original spot and replied with a smile, "Since the Great Messenger has returned, then the tribe's matters will naturally be decided by the Great Messenger. There will be others who will follow the rules to settle the trivial matters. So, my most important duty is to stay by your side, protect you, and serve you." Pfft. Gu Mengmeng really could not get used to the word serve, it sounded so awkward. So she cleared her throat and asked, I am the messenger of the beast deity, so you have to listen to my words, right?" "Yes, Great Messenger." Gu Mengmeng said, "Then as the messenger of the beast deity, I order you to go back to where you came from. Don't block my way." This. Cole seemed to be in a difficult position. Gu Mengmeng continued, "Also, I've already said that Saint Nazir is my tribe and I won't stay behind, so, you should manage this Sauter tribe yourself. Don't expect me to make any decisions, I don't have that much free time." Cole hesitated for a moment and said, "Or should I lead the whole of Sauter to submit to Saint Nazir? Does that mean I can stay by the great emissary's side to serve you?" Gu Mengmeng felt that this suggestion was quite reliable, so she looked up at Elvis and then at Leah, only to see both of them shaking their heads at her at the same time. Although the action was not visible, they had after all lived together for so long, and this level of tacit understanding was still there. So Gu Mengmeng laughed and said, "How can I do that? After all, Sauter is the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. I've just arrived and I've already swallowed their territory. This is not in line with the rules of the martial world." Cole remained silent and his gaze was filled with disappointment. He stood at the door and looked at Gu Mengmeng huddled in Leah and Elvis's arms, just like an infatuated boyfriend looking at the heartless woman who had dumped him hugging two beauties. Damn it, Lilv Miss was hugging her own husband now. Why the hell are you standing at the door with an expression like your Qin Xianglian? Gu Mengmeng was roaring in her heart, but she only smiled awkwardly and said, "Leader Cole, if there's nothing else, please go back first. I still have to be the judge to choose the warriors to join Saint Nazir later, so I won't entertain you." "Yes." Cole replied slowly, then placed his right hand on his left chest, bowed to Gu Mengmeng and left slowly. Aside from the topic, I'm not sure if everyone noticed this. When Leah went out, he dragged Cole along, and when he returned, he was carried back by someone else, meaning, he didn't win, he was beaten back to his original state. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 389. After confirming that Cole had walked far away, Gu Mengmeng pushed Leah and said, "What's wrong with you? Didn't you go out to chase him away? Why did you get carried back by someone?" Leah transformed into a human, retaining a large tail and a pair of furry fox ears. He pulled a beast skin from the side of the bed to cover himself slightly because he remembered that Gu Mengmeng did not like to see males naked. After settling everything, Leah then looked at Elvis seriously and said, "Cole is at least a 4th-level beast, you have to be careful." Elvis nodded and said, "I also sensed it." Although he had been hiding it well and did not expose his real power, but when I released my pressure that day, all beasts below 2nd level had already fainted. You, who were at the peak of 3rd level, also felt weak in the legs and dizziness, but he remained calm as if nothing had happened. 4th level pressure, unless he is also a 4th level or higher, he would not be able to withstand it. Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and finally understood that the morning when Cole came to look for her after the crowd reported her for barbecuing in public, Elvis and Lee's pairing was not just to act cool. Snow foxes are naturally cunning and Sauter is also the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. There must be many secrets that only the tribe leader knows. Even if many of them were lost in the passage of time, even if there is only a tiny bit left, it is enough to overwhelm us. So, you have to be extra cautious when dealing with him. Gu Mengmeng patted Leah and said, "You speak as if you are not from the snow fox tribe, cunning by nature. I think Cole is not a bad person, he is polite and modest. Look at how the two of you bullied him. If he was really cunning, he would have dragged you out and buried you. Why would he send you back? He even carried you back in a princess hug." Leo laughed coldly and did not answer Gu Mengmeng's question. He just looked at Elvis and said, "Mengmeng's reaction now is the best proof." Gu Mengmeng asked, "Proof of what?" Leah glanced sideways and used his index finger to lift Gu Mengmeng's chin. With a face that had never been so serious before, his long and narrow eyes filled with seriousness, he said word by word, "Gu Mengmeng, you can choose any male in this beast world, but as for foxes, just me alone is enough." Gu Mengmeng stared at Leah. TSK. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and wanted to retract her chin, but Leah was so stubborn that he refused to let go. He frowned and locked Gu Mengmeng's chin so that it was facing him. He looked straight into her eyes and remained silent for a long time, as if he was struggling and hesitating. Finally, he gave in and said, "If you really like foxes, you can consider the Fire Fox clan and the Silver Fox clan. The males in these two clans are also extremely handsome and intelligent. If it must be a snow fox, at least it can't be Cole." Gu Mengmeng could not break free from Leah and could only look at him with a lifeless face. She asked, "You and Elvis are indeed good brothers who have lived together for so many years." Damn, which eye of yours saw the words fickle and dissolute written on my face? Why does everything have to be related to mating and having a harem? I have said it 800 times, I only want Elvis as a male, I will not mate anymore. Leah frowned and instinctively lowered his head to look at his left chest. The pain was spreading. But at this moment, he was smiling. Chapter 390. At sunset, Sauter was bustling with activity. After Gu Mengmeng promised Cole again and again that she would not give him any chance to get close, Elvis and Leah finally allowed her to go out to settle some serious matters. There was an empty space near Sauter's deity platform. Cole had specially ordered people to clean it up because Gu Mengmeng wanted to hold a recruitment event. Gu Mengmeng actually felt a little apologetic. She was complaining about not wanting to be the messenger of the beast deity while enjoying their preferential treatment and service. But she had no choice. They had already cleaned up the place and she did not want to use it just to draw a clear line between them. That would make her look like she did not know what was good for her. So Gu Mengmeng decided to enjoy this 5-star service first. At most, she would leave some room fees for them when she left. With that thought, Gu Mengmeng felt at ease. The males had already placed their prey in the designated area in front of them. Most of them had 2 or 3 beasts as their prey. Occasionally, there would be a few who only had 1 prey, but it was obviously rare. But one of them was very special. The prey in front of him was piled up like a small mountain. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and asked Elvis, "Who is that person? Do you know him? Why does he have so many prey?" Elvis replied in a low voice, "Oriton, from the White Tiger tribe. He does not belong to any tribe and attends the beauty pageant every year. Many females have expressed their desire to mate with him, but strangely, he has never been attracted to any female and never expressed interest in any tribe. Nina had tried to drug him in the past but to no avail." Gu Mingming's gossipy spirit was ignited and she asked with stars in her eyes, "Drug? Do you still have that kind of drug here?" Elvis's gaze landed on Li's face. Gu Mengmeng followed Elvis's gaze and saw Leah turning his head away awkwardly. He said in an uneasy tone, "He is indeed a capable male. For the sake of the tribe, I naturally wish for him to join us." So you and Nina cooperated in a badger game to scheme against him." Gu Mingming's face was full of disdain. Leah did not know what a badger game was, but he knew it was definitely not something good. So he frowned and said seriously, "I only gave Nina a piece of beast skin with the fox seductive fragrance on it and told her to rub it on him or herself when she gets close to Oriton to seduce him. And then? Gu Mengmeng continued asking. Leah sighed. "Isn't the result obvious? If Nina had succeeded, why would Oriton still be standing here?" Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips and said, "That's true, but luckily, such a good cabbage was not taken by that wild chicken Nina." Elvis asked coldly, "You're interested in him?" "Yes." Gu Mengmeng replied without hesitation, "Leah already said that he's a strong male and will be a very strong fighting force after joining the tribe." Elvis sneered, his gaze piercing straight at Oriton like a knife. Smiling devilishly, he moved his shoulders and said, "Looks like I have to accept my first challenge after mating." "What?" Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded by the murderous look on Elvis's face. Chapter 391. Hey, he wants to join our tribe so sincerely, why do you want to kill him?" Gu Mingming's face was full of fear as she held on to Elvis's arm. "Look, this world is so beautiful but you are so hot-tempered. This is not good, not good." Elvis squinted his eyes as he exuded a dangerous aura. He rubbed Gu Mingming's hair gently and said, "You are pleading for him. Your heart aches." Gu Mengmeng said, "Hubby, talents are hard to come by." Elvis said, "Then, where do you want to place his mark?" Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before she slapped Elvis's shoulder angrily. "What the hell are you talking about? I am talking to you about strengthening the tribe, not strengthening the harem." Elvis grabbed onto Gu Mingming's wrist and pulled lightly, causing her entire body to fall into his arms. After teasing her like a cat for a while, Elvis then said, "What if the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with you?" Gu Mengmeng felt helpless and thought to herself, "Who has a phone to lend me? I will go on Baidu Tiaba and post a post called, 'Hubby loves me too much, what should I do?' He feels that all the males in the world have something to do with me, it's quite urgent, waiting online." Elvis saw that Gu Mengmeng did not speak and the evil fire in his heart burned even brighter. He glanced sideways at Oriton and sneered. "I think we should just kill him." Leah agreed. Sighed, "The battle power of a peak 3rd level is so similar to you in the past. What a pity, let's just kill him." Gu Mengmeng felt a chill down her spine. In the years before she came, the rapport they had developed actually included this kind of perverted teamwork to kill a suspected love rival. Sighing, Gu Meng Meng patted their shoulders. I heard that males in the beast world have extremely good hearing. Elvis nodded and did not say anything. His face was still sullen. Gu Meng Meng continued. Do you think he can hear you two standing so close to each other discussing killing him? Elvis and Leah sneered. If he is not deaf, he should be able to hear us. Gu Meng Meng asked again. You know he can hear us, why are you two still talking? Elvis used his fingers to lift Gu Meng Meng's little face and said with a faint smile, because he's a male that you've taken a fancy to, so we're giving him the last bit of mercy. If you still have a shred of self-awareness, you should run away now. The corners of Gu Meng Meng's lips twitched. She would never understand the world of males. Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors, but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all, and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay? Elvis harumphed and turned to look at Oriton. He curled his lips and said, Leah, look at the way he's looking at Xiao Meng. Isn't it familiar? Leah nodded. It's exactly the same as the way you looked at Meng Meng back then. Elvis said, it's exactly the same as how you look at Xiao Meng now. Chapter 392. The sun had already set below the horizon and the agreed time had been reached. Those males who had yet to return did not count. Gu Meng Meng sat on Elvis's shoulders and allowed him to carry her. She looked down at the males who had returned from hunting like a queen patrolling. Needless to say, Oriton definitely had the most prey. It was a difference that could be seen with the naked eye and did not need to be measured. Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis's shoulders and gestured for him to put her down. After getting down, Gu Meng Meng walked directly to Oriton and asked, You came back earlier than most of the others. How did you manage to get so many prey? Oriton curled his lips at Gu Meng Meng. He could barely call it a smile that resembled the expression a high school hooligan would make when he blackmailed a junior. Although it was a little creepy, since the corners of his lips were curled up, it should be a smile. Seeing Gu Meng Meng's strange expression, Oriton kept his awkward smile and returned to his usual expressionless face. I guarded Sauter's entrance and everyone who returns has to give me half of their prey. If not, I will kill them and snatch all their prey. Oriton looked at Gu Meng Meng and said, I am guarding the entrance of Sauter. Gu Meng Meng was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. No wonder that blackmailing expression just now was so on point. TSK TSK TSK, Gu Meng Meng felt like she was the reincarnation of Sun Wukong. She turned back to look at Elvis, only to realize that Elvis and Leah were smiling in each other's eyes. She tugged at Elvis's arm and asked, Did you do this before? Elvis nodded his head gladly and admitted it. He even felt a little proud. Leah swung his large tail lightly and wrapped it around Gu Meng Meng's waist. He knew what Gu Meng Meng was thinking about, so he took the initiative to explain, to be able to snatch prey from other males, it proves that he is more powerful than the one being snatched. Looking at the number, he must have felt that he would definitely win before stopping. And until he stopped, he did not lose, or else these prey would have been snatched away by others long ago. With his skills, he would definitely win even if he went out to hunt directly. But he chose this method. Looks like his true motive was to show you his skills. Oh. Gu Meng Meng replied, not fully understanding. She was still thinking to herself, damn it, males have always behaved like birds since ancient times. Their brain circuits were really strange. What made them mistakenly believe that the fiercer they were and the better they fought, the more girls would like them? Gu Meng Meng smacked her lips and thought to herself, compared to the hooligans in school, the Prince Charming Senior from the swimming club is clearly more likable. Every day, she only wore a pair of swimming trunks and soaked in the water. The moment she came out of the water, the sparkling water splashed everywhere. Hiss, it really made people salivate. Xiao Meng. Elvis's face darkened as he called Gu Mingming's consciousness back. Gu Mengmeng wiped off her saliva and realized that she was drooling at Oratin because she was thinking about something else. Damn it, it was even harder to explain now. Elvis would definitely think that she had taken a liking to this white tiger. Gu Mengmeng sighed. She thought to herself that a clean slate would be clean on its own, so she asked, "Since you are the one with the most prey today, I will represent Saint Nazir to extend an invitation to you. Welcome to Saint Nazir." Oratin was silent for a moment, his face still as cold as ice. He said expressionlessly, "I want to be your guardian beast. I will only be willing to join Saint Nazir if you agree." Aside from the topic, previously, someone asked me why I said it to be a senior from the swimming club and not the basketball club or the street dance club. Usually, the boys from these two clubs seem to be more popular in school. The answer is that when I was writing the outline of this article, it was during the Olympic Games. Chapter 393. Gu Mingming's body went limp and she almost fell. Was it because Elvis was too petty and jealous? Was it because of the sixth sense that males develop from the pressure of competition? But, what's a guardian beast? Gu Mengmeng turned her head and looked at Leah. Leah swayed his large tail and said, "Look, someone like me who is handsome and knows how to please you but is not qualified to mate with you is called a beast pet, a plaything beside your knees. You can call me and order me to leave." Leah swayed his large tail and said, "I'm not qualified to mate with you." Gu Mengmeng immediately waved her hands and said, "Go, go, go, go." But Leah smiled. He held on to Gu Mingming's little hand and circled it from her left to her right. Then, he leaned forward and leaned towards Gu Mengmeng. He grinned and said, "See, you can order them around, right?" Gu Mengmeng faked a smile and gave up on the treatment. She waited for Leah to continue. "Leah, guardian beast is also a type of family member, but its position is lower than the beast pet. It's the first line of defense for females. When they encounter any danger, they will be the first to block in front and fight for time for the females and other family members. But, because they don't know how to please females, they usually don't even have the chance to enter the cave. Mating is even more impossible. To put it bluntly, they are just guards of the cave entrance." Gu Mengmeng looked at Oratin awkwardly and whispered to Leah, "Can't you be more tactful with your words? It hurts my pride." "Pride?" Leah repeated Gu Mingming's last two words. Then, he smiled and moved his flirtatious face to Gu Mengmeng. His furry large tail swept against her calf from time to time and he said in an ambiguous and affectionate voice, "What's the use of pride for males in front of females? Look at how Elvis and I have degenerated into acting as half-orcs to please you." Gu Mengmeng then realized that ever since she rubbed Elvis's tail once when she was pregnant, he had never kept his tail. She could always grab it and hug it in her arms. When she was sitting, it was the armrest. When she was lying down, it was a warm blanket. When she was standing, it was a toy in her hands. When she was doing OXX, it was a sex toy. She was used to Elvis's tail being by her side and had forgotten that only half-orcs would have beast characteristics. Elvis, had people been pointing at his back and laughing at him for being a half-orc? How could he have never noticed this? Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis guiltily and said, "Keep your tail, you're clearly not a half-orc." Elvis smiled. "It's enough that you know I'm not a half-orc." "But they will laugh at you," Elvis replied. "I don't care what they think." Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's waist and pouted. "Hubby, you will spoil me like this." Elvis said, "Other females have a few or even dozens of males coaxing them, but you only have me." Since they couldn't compete in quantity, they could only compete in quality. You said that only a qualitative change could lead to a qualitative change. So, what other females have? I can't let you have less. Gu Meng Meng was so touched that she was filled with love. She whimpered, "Hubby, you are so nice." Chapter 394. Awaken was silent for a moment before replying, "It's impossible that there are only two males beside the messenger of the beast deity." Elvis narrowed his eyes and his murderous aura started to spread. Awaken did not know if it was because he could not feel Elvis's murderous aura, or because he was too confident in himself, or because he simply had facial paralysis. Anyway, his reaction to the dangerous aura released by Elvis was no reaction. The two of them stared straight into each other's eyes and Gu Meng Meng felt immense pressure standing in the middle. She did not know how long the two of them were going to stare at each other. Just as Gu Meng Meng was prepared to retreat a little and look at the other prey, Awaken suddenly spoke, "I have no intention of mating with the messenger of the beast deity, so you don't have to be so guarded against me." Elvis sneered in disdain. "Do you think my Meng Meng likes you?" "Ha!" Awaken was still expressionless. He looked at Elvis, then at Gu Meng Meng, before nodding his head silently. "Ha!" Gu Meng Meng hurriedly waved her hands and said, I didn't mean that, you misunderstood." Awaken was still expressionless. Although his eyes were looking in Gu Meng Meng's direction, they did not seem to be focused. He said, "You just tried to convince your males not to kill me." Gu Meng Meng, Awaken, you even praised me as a good cabbage, and felt lucky that I didn't mate with other females. Gu Meng Meng, Awaken, you even deliberately told me that if I want to join your family, I can't be interested in you. Gu Meng Meng waved her hands and said, no, I didn't say that." Awaken was silent for a moment, then pinched his throat and looked at Elvis, as if he was imitating someone. "Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors, but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all, and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay?" The corners of Gu Meng Meng's mouth twitched. She had a feeling that she could not explain herself. After Awaken finished speaking, he returned to his normal tone and said, "Didn't you say that just now to tell me that if I want to join your clan, I can't be interested in you? If you tell me how to join your family, doesn't that mean that you like me?" Gu Meng Meng. She really admired the way the males in the beast world thought. "Awaken, also, you defended my dignity in front of your pet." Gu Meng Meng turned to look at Leah in a daze. Leah shrugged his shoulders and nodded helplessly, indicating that Gu Meng Meng had indeed done that. Then, Awaken continued, "Also, you looked at me for a long time just now, and even drooled." Pfft. Gu Meng Meng raised her head and asked the heavens, "Can I choose to vomit blood and die now?" Gu Meng Meng gestured for him to stop and said, "I can explain about drooling, that wasn't because of you. I was just lost in thought and thought of a handsome swimsuit JPG, it has nothing to do with you, you've misunderstood." The moment Gu Meng Meng finished her sentence, she felt a chill on her back. Stiffening her neck, she turned around and saw Elvis and Lee's sinister smile, "Handsome, swimsuit. JPG." Aside from the topic, Gu Meng Meng, sobs, "Hubby, I can explain." Chapter 395. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and licked her lips, saying, "So many people are watching, leave me some face." Elvis nodded and said, "All right, we'll talk about it when we get back tonight." "All right." Gu Meng Meng pounced into Elvis's arms and kissed him on the cheek, saying, "So sweet, no wonder you're my hubby." Elvis chuckled and gently caressed Gu Meng Meng's little head. The corners of his lips curled up, but his voice was so calm that there was no fluctuation. "There's no use trying to please me. You have to explain clearly to me about the swimsuit Prince Charming." Gu Meng Meng sighed and really wanted to give herself 2 tight slaps. Why did she have to mention the swimsuit Prince Charming? Leah also gave a fake smile and moved closer to Gu Mingming's ear, saying, "Yeah, I also really want to know, how does that Prince Charming look like?" Gu Mengmeng laughed guiltily and said, "Let's get down to business first, alright. Everyone's waiting." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before looking at Oriton, saying, "If your condition is to become Xiao Meng's guardian beast, then we can only take it that you have given up on this spot. Unfortunately, you and Saint Nazir are not fated." Oriton's face was still expressionless and one could not tell if he was disappointed or angry. He just looked at Elvis quietly and after a long while, he said, "You're the tribe leader but she's the messenger of the beast deity. You can't make decisions for her." Elvis raised his eyebrows and sneered, saying, "To join Xiao Meng's family, even if you're just a guardian beast, you have to pass my test. How long do you think you can last in front of me?" Oriton thought about it seriously for a moment before shaking his head and said, "I don't know, I can try." Elvis handed Gu Mengmeng over to Leah and stretched his neck to both sides as a warm-up. Then, he walked towards Oriton step by step. Was he going to fight? I. Gu Mengmeng called out twice, successfully attracting their attention. Being stared at by two pairs of bloodthirsty eyes, Gu Mengmeng still felt pressured. Timidly, she extended her arms towards Elvis and said, "Hubby, hug." Elvis was taken aback for a moment before he laughed out helplessly. He turned back and carried Gu Mengmeng from Li's arms. He tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose lightly and said, "Are you that scared that I will kill him?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "We agreed that you will only fight with males that I approve of. He is not someone that I approve of, so don't waste your energy." Elvis was stunned for a moment before his smile became even more radiant. He whispered into her ear, "Tonight, is there anything that requires me to conserve my energy?" Gu Mengmeng blushed. I. Elvis nodded and said, "I understand, of course it's you." Gu Mengmeng felt hopeless. Heavens, earth, she really didn't mean it that way. Elvis protected Gu Mengmeng in his arms and turned to look at Oriton, saying, "You heard it with your own ears, Xiao Meng said that you are not someone that she approves of. So, don't mention about guardian beasts anymore. If you're not willing to join Saint Nazir, we won't force you." Oriton tilted his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng who was in a dilemma. He asked, "Can I ask you a question?" Gu Mengmeng looked up blankly, "Oh." Chapter 396. Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton like he was an idiot and said, "Because I already have a husband." Oriton said, "But, even an ordinary female has more than one partner, not to mention you are the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng smiled helplessly and answered, "You also know that I am the messenger of the beast deity. I am different from other females, I only want one partner." Oriton remained silent for a moment and asked again, "Why him? Don't you feel afraid or disgusted?" Gu Mengmeng frowned and looked at Oriton, asking, "What do you mean?" Oriton looked at Elvis and then at Gu Mengmeng, saying, "His background, you don't know?" Gu Mengmeng's expression was very bad and she said with obvious rejection, "I know, but what has my husband's background got to do with you? What right do you have to make irresponsible remarks in front of me?" Oriton was taken aback and revealed the first expression that Gu Mengmeng had seen. He only widened his eyes slightly, but it was enough to show his astonishment. "You know his background but you are still willing to accept him, not afraid of him and not despise him." Gu Mengmeng rolled up her sleeves and wanted to hit him, but looking at the pile of prey in front of him, Gu Mengmeng felt that she should be a gentleman and not hit him if she could reason with him. Thus, she placed her hands on her hips and raised her chin, saying, "Everyone can't choose their own background. Your mother didn't discuss this with you before giving birth to you, right? No matter how powerful your parents are, it's your parents who are capable and it has nothing to do with you. On the other hand, no matter how evil your parents are, it's your parents who are immoral. When they were dragged to be executed, they would not execute you for 5 minutes just because you are their son. Oratin stared unblinkingly at Gu Mingming's face, listening to her words filled with righteous indignation. Even though he was being scolded, his eyes gradually started to focus, gradually reflecting the petite but capable figure in his eyes. If you have any right to criticize my husband, it should be under the premise that you have done something better than him, and not because your parents are more powerful than his parents, understand? After Gu Mengmeng finished her long speech in one breath, she took 2 deep breaths and said, "Originally, you are a capable male and I sincerely wanted to invite you to join Saint Nazir and become a member of our tribe. But now..." Oratin raised his head, his eyes shining brightly as he said, "I am willing to join Saint Nazir without any additional conditions." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She blinked her eyes and asked, "Are you sure?" Oratin nodded and said, "Yes." Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. She looked at Elvis and said, "Why don't we take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now?" Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "I'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng smiled with her eyes curved, then extended her hand to Oratin. "Welcome to Saint Nazir." Oratin was taken aback. Then, he knelt down on one knee and placed his head under Gu Mingming's hand. He looked like, "God, please bless me." Gu Mengmeng was speechless. She exclaimed, "Why is the difference in culture as vast as the Milky Way? I just wanted to shake your hand to show my friendliness, big brother. Why are you kneeling at my feet with a righteous look on your face? How am I supposed to receive it?" Digression. Today's 9 chapters have already been updated, babies. A friendly reminder, it's almost the end of the month. Your tickets, if you don't pass them to me, will expire. Chapter 397. Elvis, on the other hand, was much calmer than Gu Mengmeng. He carried Gu Mengmeng and turned to leave without even turning back. "Gu Mengmeng, we have to choose 10 warriors today. We have only chosen 1, there are still 9 more." Elvis smiled. "Leah had already judged the rarity and quantity of the prey when you were flirting with Oratin. He has already chosen the other 9, you don't have to worry." Gu Mengmeng, I am the HR, you are overstepping your authority, you are interfering with the business of other departments, you are. Gu Mengmeng stopped and looked at Gu Mengmeng, asking, "Do you want to choose a warrior from the tribe or a male for yourself?" Gu Mengmeng said righteously, "Of course I want to choose a warrior from the tribe. Although I can take a look at some pretty men, it will not affect my professional judgment. Distinguishing between public and private interests is my basic principle, all right?" Elvis raised his eyebrows and repeated, "Look at some pretty men, huh?" Gu Mengmeng covered her mouth and accidentally said what was on her mind. Her big eyes darted around and she shook her head guiltily, wanting to take back what she said just now. Leah swung his large tail and reached out one hand to hook Gu Mingming's chin, while the other hand rested on Elvis's shoulder. He leaned forward in an ambiguous and seductive manner, his moist lips looked even more alluring under the moonlight. His long and narrow eyes were full of smiles, but there was a sense of danger in them. "How long has it been since you took a good look at me? Ha! Don't tell me, you are tired of my body and looks." Gu Mengmeng had goosebumps all over her body. She had a premonition that if Elvis was jealous, he would at most make her unable to get off the bed. But if Leah was jealous, the scene in her imagination was pitch black and she could not think of anything. But she just felt that it was so scary, so scary. I am just taking a look. Although I am a married woman, taking a look is still alright. Just taking a look, it should not be considered as indecent, right? Then the 2 of you would at least look at other beauties, beautiful females, right? Elvis, other than you, I don't look at any other females. Leah, I can't even be at ease staring at you, afraid that someone else will beat me to it and snatch away the little place I have left in your heart. It's fine if you don't sympathize with me, but you're accusing me first. Gu Meng Meng lowered her head and said, I was wrong, all right. I won't look at handsome men in the future, all right. Elvis looked at her aggrieved look and felt very complicated. He sighed and said, if you feel that I can't satisfy you and you need more males, why don't you consider Leah first? Gu Meng Meng wanted to cry but no tears came out. I really know my mistake. I will keep my private life and private life separate from now on. When I'm working, I will only work. When I'm looking at handsome men, I will only look at you, all right? Don't talk to me about mating again. I really don't have that thought. I just want to take a look. Elvis did not say anything more and just carried Gu Meng Meng towards the stone house. Leah wagged her tail and followed behind them. At a place where Gu Meng Meng and Elvis could not see, Lee's smile was mixed with a tinge of bitterness. If he could also hug Meng Meng like this and ask her if she had taken a fancy to another male. Was it because he couldn't satisfy her? How great would that be? Sighing, Leah reverted to his usual flirtatious self. He kept all his emotions and pretended that he was not sad. Aside from the topic, recommending her good friend Half Candy, who was currently PK, Battle of the Aces, God of War and Wild Wives, there is a mission that needs to be forged with blood and fire. It needs to be honed with life and death. This was a story about a mission and bloodshed. Mo Bing, the legend of the new military camp. It was rumored that she was arrogant and unruly, cold and heartless. She never cared about anyone. In reality, she disguised herself as a man and became the first female commander in history to command troops on the battlefield. Sniping, fighting, capturing, everything was easy for her. Deserts, jungles, highlands. She left her beautiful figure everywhere. Mo Bing's greatest joy in life was fighting the strong and flirting with the Prince Charming. Torturing the weak and fighting with the best. Ling Xiaoting, the legend of the military world. It was rumored that he was the king of hell of the military world. He was cold-faced and heartless and did not understand the meaning of human relationships. Chapter 398. Back at the stone house, Elvis placed Gu Meng Meng on the bed and stood beside Leah in front of Gu Meng Meng. He looked at Gu Meng Meng coldly and said, all right, now that there's no one else around, you can talk about your swimsuit, Prince Charming. Gu Meng Meng felt that she had been living in an awkward atmosphere for the entire day and the cancer of awkwardness was about to break out. She smirked and said, I haven't forgotten. Elvis nodded but did not reply. Leo leaned to the side and looked nonchalant. He fiddled with his fingers and said with some disappointment, I still remember that you used to call me Beauty. This is the first time I've heard the term Prince Charming. It seems like he's much more beautiful than me, right? Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, no, the males in my world can never be compared to you. They're not even on the same level. Leo looked up and curled his lips seductively, saying, but, you call him Prince Charming. Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed and he remained silent for a long time before saying, the first time we met, you wore that weird outfit, was it to meet him? How did you know? Gu Meng Meng blurted out but immediately realized that she had said something wrong. She hurriedly covered her mouth but it was too late. Gu Meng Meng sighed and complained that her IQ was not online today. She looked up at Elvis and said pitifully, can I be lenient if I tell the truth? Elvis remained silent and said, you dressed like that, so it was to meet him. Gu Meng Meng felt like she was caught red-handed in bed. But who the hell ever heard of cheating before marriage? Elvis's eyes were filled with a strong sense of loss and sorrow. He just stared at Gu Meng Meng, his eyes like a black hole, wanting to suck Gu Meng Meng into it. At that time, you clearly said that you risked drowning for me, then, you even kissed me. But, so that was a lie. Gu Meng Meng shook her head. Elvis's gaze made her heart ache. She stood up from the bed and flew towards Elvis. The distance was a little far, and if Elvis did not step forward to catch her, she would definitely fall to the ground. But no matter how sad Elvis was, he could not bear to let her get hurt. So before Gu Meng Meng could tilt her body 30 degrees, Elvis had already hugged her firmly in his arms. Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis's neck and whispered in his ear gently, "Hubby, don't let your imagination run wild. I'll tell you the truth, tell you everything, all right?" Elvis hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded his head. Gu Meng Meng straightened her body and held Elvis's face. She looked into his eyes and said, "That day, I wore that bikini to meet that swimsuit Prince Charming. But I didn't even see him before I transmigrated here and met you. I do admire him, but he doesn't even know who I am. There's nothing between us, really. Don't be sad, okay?" Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed, an uneasy light flashing in his blue eyes. He asked, "What if you saw him that day? Would he not have come here? I almost couldn't meet you, didn't I?" Chapter 399. Gu Meng Meng snuggled in Elvis's arms and swung her little feet. She thought for a while and smiled. "Actually, I can't even remember what that Prince Charming Sr. looks like. I only remember that he was not willing to admit defeat and was so focused when he was trying his best to advance towards his goal. The confidence he exuded when he stood on the podium made me feel dizzy. Maybe I don't like him, I just don't want to be alone anymore, so I found someone to rely on." Elvis frowned and said, "Alone? Don't you have? You see Jean by your side?" Gu Meng Meng burst out laughing. "Do you still think that you see Jean is real? That's just a story. I've explained it many times, there's no such person in real life." Elvis remained silent and did not reply. Leah, however, wagged his tail and said casually, "When you described him, from his eyes to his actions, it was too detailed. It's hard to believe if you said it was all fabricated." Gu Meng Meng had no choice but to explain what a television was. Then, Elvis asked, "You like television?" Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, "If there's no cell phone, television is the best entertainment. So I actually quite like it." Elvis nodded and asked again, "What does that machine look like? Where can I catch it?" Gu Meng Meng was taken aback for a moment, then she laughed out loud and said, "Hubby, that's a product from our world's civilization, it doesn't exist here." Elvis's expression was a little disappointed and he muttered, "Is it the magical weapon from the beast deity world?" Gu Meng Meng held back her laughter and nodded, saying, "You can say that, but that thing is harmful to the eyes, so it's good not having it." Elvis nodded and said, "So when you first came here, you couldn't see anything at night because of that machine, right?" Gu Meng Meng wanted to say that even without a cell phone and television, she couldn't see anything at night, but after thinking about it, she decided not to, so she nodded silently. Elvis hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and patted her back gently to comfort her. "When you were by the beast deity's side, you suffered. I'm sorry that I couldn't appear by your side to protect you at that time. That's why you suffered so much and even hurt your eye." Actually, Gu Meng Meng was thinking, in such a melancholic environment, if she said that she enjoyed watching television and playing with her phone, would it be too much of a wet blanket? Taking a deep breath, Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis back and said, "It's not too late to meet him now. I'm willing to sacrifice my right to watch TV and play with my phone for the rest of my life in exchange for your company." Elvis fell into self-reproach for not participating in Gu Meng Meng's past, but Leah clearly understood something else. "So, before coming here, you've always been alone. Aren't your father and mother accompanying you?" Gu Meng Meng's smile froze. She pursed her lips and shook her head, saying, "My father abandoned my mother when I was very young and mated with another younger female. From then on, there was no news of him, as if he had disappeared from the world. My mother is currently mating with another male, and this burden, was finally abandoned after my mother and the new father gave birth to a younger brother. Out of topic. Chapter 400. Elvis and Leah were so shocked that they could not say a word. No matter if it was Gu Mingming's father abandoning his wife and daughter to marry someone else or her mother abandoning her after remarrying, it was all unheard of and unimaginable. Clenching his fists tightly, Elvis could only feel the suffocation in his chest. He gritted his teeth and said, "You are a precious female, how can you?" The word abandoning was too heavy. Elvis could not use this word on Gu Mengmeng no matter what. Gu Mengmeng smiled bitterly and said, "In our world, females are not as precious as here. On the contrary, in many backward places, they would even throw their newborn daughters into the rubbish bin or go to an illegal clinic to do a B scan during pregnancy to induce labor after confirming the gender." Gu Mengmeng could feel Elvis's body trembling. It was an emotion that was struggling between anger and heartache. She knew that her man was grieving for her past. Raising her head and smiling, Gu Mengmeng said, "I am still considered good, at least my mother raised me until I was 14. I could earn some living expenses by performing in the small theater in the amusement park. During the winter and summer breaks, I would also work part-time at McDonald's to earn my tuition fees. After I was 18, life became better. When I was in university, I had a full scholarship and the accommodation and canteen in school were much cheaper than outside. So, the period in university was the most relaxing and satisfying period of my life. I originally wanted to learn how to fall in love or something in this most beautiful period of my life. Unfortunately, I did not even have the chance to confess before I transmigrated here. There were many words in Gu Mingming's words that Elvis and Leah could not understand. But they were very clear about one thing, that was, there was a deep sense of loneliness in Gu Mingming's eyes. This kind of loneliness was exactly what Elvis and Leah saw in each other's eyes when they first met. But at that time, besides loneliness, there was also hatred in their eyes. And in Gu Mingming's eyes, there was hope in that faint sense of loneliness. She gazed at Elvis with her clear eyes and smiled sweetly. "I'm still very lucky to be able to come here and meet you. You've given me an unprecedentedly comfortable life and spiritual comfort. You've made me believe that my life is starting to change for the better." Xiao Meng. Elvis did not know what to say to comfort Gu Mengmeng. After deliberating for a long time, he only said, "I love you." Gu Mengmeng replied with a smile, "I love you too." As for Leah, he finally understood why Gu Mengmeng refused to forgive and accept him at this moment. In her opinion, he had abandoned her, right? No matter how many reasons he had, his actions did indeed constitute abandonment, right? Leo lowered his head and pressed on his chest tightly. He gritted his teeth but could not see Gu Mingming's face. He used to have the right to protect her, to comfort her, and to care for her. But now, why should he feel heartache? Why should he regret it? What right did she have to say, "Please forgive me"? Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and smiled. "All right, why did you make the atmosphere so depressing? If all the hardships I suffered in the first half of my life were to accumulate good luck in exchange for an opportunity to meet you, I think it's quite worth it." Out of topic. Tragic life is different. Everyone has their own difficult but clenched teeth to persist in the past. We do not have the right to refuse the suffering that God gives us, but we have the right to choose how to face it. Babies, remember. The harder it is, the more you must smile. Chapter 401. Although I have both parents, I still have 6 relatives to rely on. But now, I have you and our sons. I have a complete family. I will give you all the love that I had no place to store in the past, then accept your love with peace of mind. That will be very blissful. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis and smiled sweetly, "So, don't worry that I will leave you. You and our sons are all that I have left. Where else can I go after leaving the both of you? Elvis frowned, but the corners of his lips were curled up. He could not tell what he was feeling. He felt heartache and lucky at the same time. He knew the feeling of having nothing but someone. He was in such a state himself. He was the leader of Saint Nazir, but Saint Nazir was not important to him. The only important thing was Gu Meng Meng. And coincidentally, he was fortunate enough to become the only pillar in Gu Mingming's heart. Her reliance made him feel very lucky and blissful. But the price of this luck was that she had to struggle for so many years in a place he could not see. Elvis hugged Gu Meng Meng tightly in his arms and kissed her hair, saying, "If there is a price to pay for meeting you, then it should have been borne by me. I was too useless, that's why you had to suffer so much." Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "Didn't you also drift around for so many years to meet me?" If the torture he had endured in the past was to meet her, the corners of Elvis's lips curled up slightly. Those bloody scenes, those cruelty, those tortures and those narrow escapes seemed to have quietly changed in his memories. It was not tragic, not pitiful, and not tragic. Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and said, "Thank you for beautifying my life." That night, Gu Meng Meng told Elvis many interesting things about her working days. She wanted Elvis to not think that her life was too tragic, but no matter how relaxed her tone was, Elvis's expression always became more and more solemn. After that, Gu Meng Meng fell asleep in Elvis's arms in a daze. In her half-awake state, she heard Elvis murmuring softly beside her ear, "You still haven't answered me, that swimsuit Prince Charming, who exactly is he?" Gu Mingming's heart thumped twice and she decided to immediately fall into a deep sleep. An ex-boyfriend appearing in front of her every day, a made-up Eugene appearing every now and then, if this swimsuit Prince Charming was added into the mix, life was really rich. The next morning, when Gu Meng Meng stretched herself and sat up, she felt that the atmosphere in the house was not quite right. Rubbing her eyes, she realized that Cole was actually standing in the house, wearing a strange outfit. It was made of animal skin, but the style looked like the attire worn by ancient priests. It was a cheap imitation. Elvis's face darkened as he stood in front of Cole, facing off against him. Cole was very similar to Leah in some aspects. He always had a humble but distant smile on his face. He just smiled at Elvis. Even though they did not speak, Gu Meng Meng felt as if she could see lightning flashing and thunder roaring between the two of them. Chapter 402. Gu Meng Meng ignored Leah. Every night, this fellow would crawl onto the bed like a Samoyed. She used all kinds of methods to reject and defend herself, but no matter what she did before she slept, this fellow would still be on her bed when she woke up. Getting used to it was a very scary thing. Because Gu Meng Meng would no longer be shocked by Lee's appearance on her bed. Directly ignoring this fellow, Gu Meng Meng jumped down from the bed and walked to Elvis's side. She looked at Cole and then at Elvis, asking softly, "Hubby, what's wrong?" "Great messenger, good morning." Cole bowed respectfully to Gu Meng Meng, then said, "Today is the beast deity sacrificial ceremony, to thank the beast deity for blessing the females to survive the harsh winter, and to pray for more cubs to be born this year. In the past years, it was always hosted by me, but since the great messenger has returned this year, you should naturally be the one hosting it. So, I am here to invite you over." The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched, recalling how Leah stood on the wooden platform and danced the Great Spirit during her coming-of-age ceremony. She laughed awkwardly and said, "Then, I am not familiar with this business, since you are used to it, you should do it." Cole seemed to be a little surprised. Immediately kneeling down on one knee, he said sincerely, "I dare not overstep my boundaries." Leah stood up from the bed, wagging his tail, and hung onto Elvis's shoulder like a boneless person, his large tail circling around Gu Mingming's waist. His voice was still lazy and slightly hoarse, he said, hosting the beast deity sacrificial ceremony is a symbol of status. Only the most authoritative person has the right to do so. Since you are here, it will definitely not be his turn. Meng Meng. As Leah said, he tightened his tail around Gu Mingming's waist and pulled her closer to him. His slender fingers hooked Gu Mingming's chin and his long and affectionate eyes shone with a gentle light. His dark red lips parted slightly and he said, I also want to see how you look like in the priest robe, you must be so beautiful. Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tenderness. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes and slapped Li's hand away. She took a step back into Elvis's arms and said, but I don't know how to dance the great sorcerer. Cole took a step forward and took out a piece of beast skin. He handed it to Gu Mengmeng with both hands and said, this is another esoterica that Sauter worships. It is said to be related to the sacrifice ceremony. Please have a look, Lord Emissary. Gu Mengmeng was traumatized by the word esoteric. She thought to herself, could it be the hand-copied version of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty? But it was not a good idea for Cole to continue acting like this, so Gu Mengmeng took it over suspiciously. When she opened it to take a look, she almost choked on her own saliva. 2 lines of words were embroidered on the animal skin with some unknown thread, sacrificial dance, small apple, slowed down 16 times. The words recited by the priest were the lyrics of the English version of Little Apple. Gu Mengmeng suddenly laughed. She shook the piece of beast skin and turned to look at Cole, then at Leah. She thought to herself, did you know that the previous messenger of the beast deity whom you all respected as a god was actually a clown who knew how to dance in the square? How did this fellow manage to trick the entire world into becoming lame? It had been 1,000 years and they still couldn't find a bicycle. Lord Emissary, is there a problem? Cole felt that Gu Mingming's gaze was not right, so he asked, you're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.